Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. So today I wanted to take a break from Standard and go to start playing some Explorer. Explorer is a bit more of a casual format, but it has a lot of the cards that I just really enjoy playing and a lot of the different play styles. It has some things that people would rather leave behind, like the adventure mechanic. So we have Lovestruck Beast, and we also have Bone Crusher Giant. Of course, two cards that people would, perhaps rather not see too much of ever again, but I do think they can be fun cards, and I think in Explorer there's enough powerful strategies to not worry too much about it. We have the 8 mana dorks as well. This is just everything that I love in Magic the Gathering. If I'm not casting a red 1-drop, if I'm not casting a Swift Spear or a Goblin Guide, next best thing is to cast a mana dork on turn 1. So it's a lot of the things I just really enjoy playing. Scavenging Ooze and Mutavault are cards I've played competitively, as well as both of these mana dorks at certain times in Magic the Gathering's history, as well as Thought-Knot Seer. I've played all of these cards. I still play this in the sideboard of my Tron lists for Modern. Still play Scavenging Ooze from time to time and Mutavault in Modern as well. There are just times for everything, and these cards are just amazing. They're incredibly fun to play with. We have some synergy and, with the Sky Sovereign, you can do things. Most of your things just can crew this immediately, which is extremely powerful. Every now and then you may be able to even give it haste with Stormseeker, just depending on your board state. So sometimes you can just play this and then immediately give it haste to do 6 damage on 1 turn with its passive. Very, very powerful card. It's fun to play. 5 mana is not difficult to reach in this deck, so we play 24 lands, 0 basic lands, but usually mana is not a problem. Enough green sources, so 3, 4, 5, 9, 13, plus the Crag Crown Pathways, 17 sources of green that come in untapped on turn 1, so casting our mana dork should not be a problem. And then, of course, we have a companion here, because essentially it's just a free card. Looking at the sideboard, because we will be playing best of 3s today or traditional standard, we have just a Grizzly Bear to destroy some artifacts and enchantments, but it has the upside of having day bound, so it gets a bit larger. Unlicensed Hearse for any type of graveyard matchups, Hazarets for removal decks, Raining Volley if we have any white or blue creatures that need to be destroyed, Damping Spheres for decks that are producing large amounts of mana, and of course Embercleave. Should be noted, though, that if we bring in Embercleave, we cannot play Gigantha as the companion due to the companion restrictions on Gigantha, but should not be a big issue for the most part. So with that being said, this deck is, again, just a lot of what I like about Magic the Gathering from the past 10 years. We have a lot of strong threats to play on turn 3 that we can easily push out due to Llanowar Elves. So it's hopefully we can get some of those plays like that and just play a turn ahead of curve because of the mana dork if they live. I think our worst matchup is probably going to be some type of blue-based control. Blue-black control is probably going to be extraordinarily hard to beat. It's also very popular in the format. Rakdos, I think we have fair game against. I think that's close to 50-50. Although our artifacts, they can have a hard time dealing with these. So maybe the cats will get us some wins here. That's one of my favorite cat tokens. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the games. So we will be playing traditional, and this deck goes by so many names online, but at the end of the day, it's just a green-red monsters list. So if monsters is your thing, then perhaps you would also like this deck. So maybe we can have some good games here today, and you can decide if you want to give it a try for yourself. I'd also like to mention that I'm not entirely certain how competitive the deck is. Explorer is a bit less of a competitive format because it does not exist in paper, technically. But the format can still be fun and refreshing, especially right now where Standard is a bit dry. We've already hit Mythic for the season. We hit rank 1 Mythic, and there's just not a lot going on until new Phyrexia comes out in the next couple of weeks. So once we do get Phyrexia, we can start looking at doing some draft videos, some limited, and perhaps working on standard as well at that time. Curious to see how things play out with the full spoiler lists. But until then, maybe we can enjoy some Explore. Alright, so first we're up against a Jace avatar. So if they are on blue-black control, this may not be fun. Okay, so no Yorians. This is a great hand. If only like one of these Lovestruck Beasts or even the Thought-Knot Seer was another land, I'd keep this all day, but we do have to mulligan. I don't like keeping a land or a hand full of 4-drops. So we will have to go to 5. This one's pretty good. Let's get rid of the Mutavault and the Oasis. So mulliganing to 5 is, of course, never what you want to do. Opponent is blue-white control, which is probably going to be one of our worst matchups. So here we're already going to run into counterspell issues. Opponent can have a myriad of counterspells. Let's just get in with our Stormseeker. I take this over Bone Crusher Giant just because we can still have some versatility here. I think it's the better spell. I'd rather run this into the counter magic instead. Alright, so maybe our opponent is shy on lands though, to Shark Typhoon for 1, or Shark Typhoon for 0, but to draw 1 card. Okay, 3 lands, no spell. Let's go ahead and just play this as a red source. And we have a few options. We could just buy Gigantha. So we haven't seen like a Foretold Doomscar. We could play Bone Crusher Giant and just get in with damage. Or just buy Gigantha and present 6 points of damage here. Although if our opponent, so they have access to 3 mana, double blue, they most certainly have counter spells. I think I'm going to opt to play like this. And maybe they'll be hesitant to take 5 damage to counter my threat. However, the exception is that there's not going to be a threat. I'm just going to buy Gigantha. And we'll see if they... Okay, so they don't have a play at all on turn 3. That's pretty good for us. They can have, of course, a board wipe. Just play this out. Supreme Verdict is one hell of a card. Okay, you know, that's not great, but it's not terrible. So let's just go ahead and go do attacks, and hopefully they'll just take 4, trying to counter our next threat. We'll just pass. I do want to get in stomp damage with this and not get board wiped again. Okay, so we can just stomp the token as well. Alternatively, we can Obliterating Bolt the token. I think I like that play instead. Otherwise, this Obliterating Bolt is largely dead. So they may opt to just counter this, which is fine. That was going to most likely be countered regardless. Alright, let's just go ahead and go for the attacks and hang on to the Obliterating Bolt. Drawing the untapped land there means we can cast Gigantha. Really? Okay. Well, in that case then, I don't really see a need to cast Gigantha if they're just going to take 4 damage. Alright, they are to the point of being able to activate their Hall of the Storm Giant, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, just enough mana to activate. We can lair for a green. 1, 2, 3. We make lair a 3/3. If they want to take their whole turn to activate Hall, I think this is okay for us. Let's just attack. And then we can Obliterating Bolt it after they block. Okay. And now we have a few threats in our hand. We've taken care of their Hall. And we have creature lands that can potentially get through damage as well. They know about the Gigantha. We could get censored, so I think we should pay the 2 life. Life isn't really that important to us here anyway. So just to prevent us from getting force spiked here, I think it's best to pay the 2 life to have the 1 mana. Main phase 2, we'll cast the Llanowar Elves. Alright, so on a mulligan to 5, we've actually been quite competitive against this deck. Not much we can really do about that. Okay, so opponent has, you know, essentially infinite token. So for the sake of, you know, just viewability, let's go ahead and move on to game number 2 here. So we get to be on the play. I don't think, I don't believe Rending Volley is going to be great. Hazoret will probably be pretty good here. They do have exile things, but just bringing in as many threats as possible is, I believe, where we need to be. We can go down on removal. And for the most part, I think this is probably fine. Scavenging Ooze is not great against them, but that's okay. Neither is the Sky Sovereign. All right, so we'll see what our opponent wants to bring in here. Imagine it's just going to be removal and more removal. Hopefully we do not have to mulligan to 5 this time, though. Okay, I would like to be on the play. Not the best, but I think we'll keep this. We play 8 mana dorks. It's pretty unlikely we don't have one, but at least we still have a 1-drop here. So this resolves. It may be getting soul partitioned here. Survives for now. Opponent debating if they want to take 5 damage here or not. All right, so we have a few options here at 4 mana. We can either remove their sweeper, or we can play a chariot. Chariot's probably safer. Let's go to combat. And we can think about what we'd like to do in phase 2. So, assuming they just have one board wipe, which they have a full 7 cards in hand, strong chance they could have 2. So if I Thought Not Seer and they have 2 Supreme Verdicts, then that's probably going to be game, because we want to wipe my whole board, including the Thought Not Seer, and get to draw a card for doing so. That's pretty game ending. Where at least with the Chariot, they wipe the board, but I keep the Chariot. But then again, like, I can crew the Chariot, which gives my Lovestruck Beast use because I don't have a 1/1. Then again, you know, this could just get Dovin's vetoed, and then I get board wiped anyway. Let's hook in the Thought Not Seer. Alternatively, I can play Stomping Ground tapped, and then just buy Gigantha. A lot of, it's actually a really tough decision. I think we have a respectable threat on the board as it is, so let's just buy Gigantha, and then pass turn. So our opponent has to wipe this. We are presenting a lot of damage. So if they wipe this, then we'll untap and resolve probably a Chariot. Once they Supreme Verdict here. They most certainly have 1, it's just whether or not they had 2. If I knew for a fact they had 1, I would just go for a Thought Not Seer, but yeah, this could be like Wandering Emperor too. Wandering Emperor on Lovestruck Beast.
You started this fight.
See that in
but I'm going to end it.
Just about every single
You're
format,
done.
and that's okay. So we don't have a land to play our Sky Sovereign, unfortunately, to just kill this. But we do have a few options here, so we can Thought Not Seer or Chariot. I think Chariot's probably better to just go ahead and resolve. Okay. Not that big of a deal. We can play our second Chariot to crew this one as well. We would just have to play this Chariot, keep the one without Summoning Sickness. They're determining if they want to just kill Wandering Emperor or try to keep it on the board. Question is if we draw a 5th land.
I still have much to learn. May your
we don't have to worry about that anyway. I think we take the opportunity to just resolve our other Chariot. Alright, and now we have a nice full board again. Our opponent will have to make the decision to either block or just take 4. So that feels like another Wandering Emperor to me. So we'll see. Although if we draw a land on this turn, then we can Sky Sovereign to kill the 2/2 and force a counterspell, which will mean they won't be able to get Wandering Emperor. So if we draw a land here, I think we're in great shape to win the game. Okay, well that feels like we're in good shape to win this game regardless. Can't count them out, though. The opponent does have a single deserted beach. We do hit a land. Let's go ahead and cast our Sky Sovereign. And that's going to be game 2. Okay, so now we get to go to game 3. Hopefully this time we can... So we're going to be at a disadvantage, obviously, being on the draw against them. But hopefully we can at least get one of our mana dorks on turn 1 this time. That way we can play a turn ahead. Otherwise, I don't think there's much here. So they did show us Wandering Emperor. That could be a reason to want to bring an Obliterating Bolt. Scavenging Ooze, I mean, they have effects that exile, so maybe Scavenging Ooze isn't great. Is Obliterating Bolt better for Wandering Emperor? I feel like we had enough ways to deal with Wandering Emperor regardless. We have Soul Seer that can also deal with Wandering Emperor, but this also deals with the Dream Trawler. Assuming they're even playing Dream Trawler. I think I'm just going to play it exactly like this. Okay, so hand not great. I think we can do better. I think this hand is objectively better. We'll need to draw some lands though. Not the best draws here from the deck. But that's at least a fine draw. I'll take the land. Turn 2 play would be nice. Wish I had you on turn 1. Let's just go ahead and attack for 1. Opponent may opt to... So I'm not going to take 2 life. I'm going to play out the Elvish Mystic. Having that on turn 1 would have made this a very different game. So we have 2 options. We could play Chariot. Alternatively... we can just attack for 2 and play Lovestruck Beast. So given that this is into open mana, obviously they have a billion counter spells. I don't think I want to cast Chariot here. I think I would just like to attack for 2 here. And then we can play out our beast. Alright, and now if our opponent chooses to board wipe, we'll follow up with a Chariot, and hopefully we are in okay shape. Although if they counter this, I imagine they may not have a board wipe, so we'll see. Okay, so if we get hit with an Absorb here, that to me would feel like they don't have a board wipe. Okay, they don't even have a fourth land. So there's an upside and a downside to this. Obviously, the upside is our opponent missed a land drop. The downside is their hand's full of gas, and it's probably all counter and removal. So I don't really want to cast anything here. Let's just keep getting in for 2 damage. Going to buy Gigantha, and then we'll just pass turn. This keeps me from getting censored, but this uses all my mana this turn. This is like my objectively worst card, so I may as well just cast it. It'll probably eat an Absorb or a Dovin's Veto or something. Yeah, that's probably like worst case scenario, but... fine. Alright, so knowing they have Make Disappear, I am just going to pay 2 life for Thought Not Seer. And this will have to be countered. Okay, it's another Absorb. Alright, let's activate Mutavault on this one. Then we'll play our Scavenging Ooze. Try to get through all their counter magic as much as we can. And if they play Wandering Emperor, then of course we'll resolve our Chariot. Okay, so opponent opts to maybe cast Wandering Emperor main phase 2. That's just what I assume is coming. Wandering Emperor hits my Mutavault. Okay, it's just a Soul Partition on Scavenging Ooze. Not the worst. Okay, we're getting to the point where we may just have to start casting Chariots. Although a land there means I could have double spelled, but I think what I'd like to do is just reactivate my Mutavault and then probably cast Scavenging Ooze. Okay. We're having to use a lot of gas.
I know my responsibility. Hurry!
Alright, so I'm hoping we draw a land here. That way we can double spell. Okay, land here is good. Okay, so first I want to Chariot and then probably like Soulseer. We'll just put that to the top. Then we'll go ahead and kill the Teferi.
That didn't go according to plan.
Okay, so that's not a terrible turn, and we're getting to where Hazoret can attack.
I won't hide from the world any... You know what? I'm not done yet.
This will have to be countered, I believe. Okay, so Dwari Disruption is very good.
Hurry!
We have a lot of threats, though, and a lot of creature lands, so I feel fairly optimistic here. But this is actually a close game. Wow, okay, so they're just killing one Teferi for me.
I'm not going to sit this one out.
This will give them a lot of mana, though.
You know what? I'm not done yet.
More chariots. We do have these two Ramanap ruins as well. I'm hoping they just kind of forget about those. Sure. We don't have any non-basics. They'll get rid of a cat and they'll take four.
I am the
They'll go
Emperor
down
of
to 4.
Kamigawa, and I will protect my people. This is what you get for hurting my people.
Maybe last turn we do want to crew a chariot. Hard to
No
say.
time
Though.
for a break.
Try not to. Guards, to me!
Okay, 3 lands, so and crew. And that should be game. All right. that was one of the reasons why I do not like playing traditional games. So no, I did not have fun. That game took way too long. That was a 30-minute game, basically, or like it was like a 25-minute game. That's not, if you're playing paper Magic, it's much different, but I don't like playing like that on Arena. It's also just not it's not the best to just sit there forever while your opponent dirtles, and you don't have like a judge to keep them accountable on time. Like there was, you know, several opportunities the opponent was just effectively slow playing. But green-red is normally somewhat resilient to the blue-white build. I think blue-black is a much worse matchup. However, that was other than how long my opponent was taking to try to win the game, it was actually a pretty enjoyable match. But for the most part, it just took way too long. But that's comes with the territory of playing Magic the Gathering. Sometimes, or a lot of the times, you get to play up against the control decks, which aren't always the funnest to play against, but that's okay. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to cut it short here. I don't think making this a 3-hour video, if I get a couple more control matchups, is the way to go. Otherwise, I hope that was at least telling for you as to what the deck can do. I don't think I played it absolutely perfectly, so this is a deck that I'm pretty experienced with playing, or at least an archetype that I'm pretty experienced with playing. And there were a few opportunities there where I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I think I navigated it pretty well playing around counter Magic, with the exception of my Hazoret walking into a Jawari Disruption. I think since I have redundant Asika's Chariots, to just go ahead and play one of the Chariots there instead. But I wanted to really get that Teferi dead. My opponent did that for me the next turn, though. They killed one of their Teferis to play another Teferi on their turn, trying to find something. But so since my opponent drew a lot of heat early, and they got a little stuck on lands, they started drawing a lot of lands later, which is what that looked like. They were also playing on full control on, because whenever I thought not seared them, TKS, they just had 3 lands, so that means they were just playing with full control, trying to bluff. It's not very good etiquette on MTG Arena, of course. They're always free to play however they want to, but it really extended the length of that game. So but that is what it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, it was pretty fun to play. It would have been much funner in paper, or more fun in paper, I should say. But otherwise, thank you so much. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you appreciated the games.